Okay, so I noticed that there seems to be quite a lot of newer players in this Hades Society Discord who are new to playing AoM online, and so they're inexperienced and they haven't played again much of the main game mode Supremacy against other people. So I was hoping I could create a quick guide in how to how to get into it, so you can at least go into it with a bit of confidence and not be absolutely terrible. Okay, so first of all, you have the quick match system, which ranks you again in 1v1 against the player. It's almost always going to be 1v1 um, of like someone similar to your rating, though once you get to very high or very low rating, it can take quite a while to find someone, especially if there's not many people online. If you play during the off hours, or you can host a custom lobby and let people join. In which case, we're gonna host a custom lobby, and now there are 15 gods, but I'm not going to talk about Chinese for now since they're sort of new. But there are 12 gods essentially, and if you're a new player, the one that is by far the easiest to play and get semi decent or competitive at is Atlantean, and in particular Uranus. So Uranus is the god that you will be getting the best results with by far as a new player. So I recommend you go ahead and pick Uranus. And we're not gonna focus on water maps now, but since those do play a bit differently, so we're gonna go in on land. And what you want to do, as any civilization really, is you need to start making villagers right at the start of the game. So you go here and then you pick set your town center immediately with hotkeys, which should be H and V by default, and then you're making villagers straight off the bat. Then on Age of Mythology, most of the maps have very high amounts of hunt. So what you want to do as Uranus is go ahead and grab an economic guild straight away as soon as you get into the game, and research hunting dogs, because that will allow you to gather hunt much faster, much faster. So you get hunting dogs, and then you queue your villagers. Press this button so that you make sure you're queuing villagers all game. Um, you really don't want to let TC is an abbreviation for town center. Stop queuing villagers at any point of the game. So you're going to send your first two villagers to food with Uranus, and then what you want to do next is the next villager is going to wood, but in the meantime you want to move your oracles around into positions where they can grow their line of sight in, and then so you can have more information on the map. In the meantime, you set your gather point of your town center to wood, so the next villager that comes out will go to wood. And in particular, the back wood is safer. So I'm going to go to this tree first, and then this citizen will hopefully move along to this line. So we're going to shift click, hold shift, and then right click this, then right click this, so that once this citizen finishes this tree, he will go to this tree instead of this tree, which is closest. But we don't want him to go to this tree because there's nothing useful there. Also, note that the more you split your villagers in terms of like hunting spots outside your base, the more efficient you are. So right now I have one villager at home and one villager on this hunt patch. So if I can clean up all this hunt with just one villager, then that's only one villager that has to walk out to this hunt patch and walk back in, and that's like walking time where the villager's not gathering, but you still get all the hunt. Now with this next villager, who goes to gold, you want to make sure he builds a manor, or she in this case. And then once you're done building a manor, she goes back to gold. As soon as you have enough gold. If you build it too late, then you'll get housed and then you can't continue your citizen production. So you hold shift, you place the manor down, and then you send your villager back to gold. Then the next villager, um, she goes to food, and right now you keep on scouting with your oracle. So like when they are at max LOS, you move them to a new place. In the meantime, you send any herdables like cows and sheep you find back to your base, uh, and continue to move your oracles around to reveal parts of the map. Also note that generally on the opposite side of the map, so around here, for me. If you see this black square on the minimap, is where the enemy town center is. You don't want to go there with your oracles because they're going to get shot by the town center and they're going to die. Now once you have 100 gold, you're going to want to build a temple so you can advance to the next stage. In this case, I'm sort of building it in a random location, but usually, like, maybe this location would be good because it would stop enemies from moving into this point to attack my wood line. So yeah, that was a bit of that was a bit of a mistake by me. Then you're going to advance to the next age. Notice that if you've done everything correctly so far, you'll have enough resources to start advancing at exactly 330. So right now we started advancing at exactly 330, and since we've started advancing, we don't need so many on food now. So we're going to move one of our food villagers and put him onto wood. Oh, another thing to note is that chickens are not hunt. You don't hunt chickens. They gather just as slow as berries. So hunting dogs doesn't help them gather faster, and your villagers will gather chickens much slower than hunt in general, even without hunting dogs. So this villager finishes the hunt. You always have to keep an eye out for this idle villagers. You don't want to let your villagers be idle. So so you always have to keep an eye out for that. And when they're idle, you move them somewhere else. Meanwhile, you still keep your town center on auto queue so that you're gonna keep making villagers this whole time. Now, once you advance as Oranos, you're gonna want to create, not two military barracks. You want to make one military barracks and one counter barracks in the meantime, sending your Promethean forward into like a position where he could potentially do some damage, like where they're hunting. But in this case, we have an Egyptian player who's advanced, so he'll probably have his pharaoh to defend, so it won't do much damage. So we're just gonna walk around and explore the map a little bit with it. Now we're gonna auto queue Termas and Murmillos from these two buildings. And then notice that we almost are housed now, so we're gonna have to make a new house. So we get a citizen and we make her build a new house. Then these units will just continue to come out. Right now I'm popped, so the unit isn't coming out, which is a mistake. I should have started this house sooner. And then we'll have constant army production and constant resource production, and we'll be able to play aggressive and then slowly expand our economy and do things. Once you have enough villagers, like a good amount, you also want to start getting economic upgrades like hand axe, pickaxe. This is true no matter what civilization you're playing. You're going to want to get economic upgrades, and usually you also want to get husbandry before you start eating your herdables like cows and stuff. But we're not using that yet. Now we're almost housed again. So you see how fast how fast we're actually making units. Yeah, we're producing units really fast, so we're already housed again, and we have to make another manor. And once you have these units, you can run around and run to the enemy position, and then you can go around and raid with them. In this case, I'm playing against a bot, and I'm not gonna go around and wait for the bot, and also I have too many on wood, so you want to constantly keep an eye out on like how much wood you need. Like in this case, I'm only producing termas, so I don't need this much wood. So I'm going to move some of my wood villagers onto other resources, and that's how you play. That's sort of the basics, and the execution is by far the easiest to do with Oranos, and this is the basic strategy that will win you the game against most other new players in Age of Mythology. So we're gonna go back out now. So to recap, the number one most important thing in Age of Mythology is that you want to be constantly making villagers, because these are the building blocks of your society. They're what gather resources, and resources are everything in this game. They allow you to build army, allow you to expand, grab town centers, economic upgrades. Resources are everything. You don't worry about having too much population and villagers, because the ratio of optimal economy to army in Age of Mythology is actually really high on economy, because once you have excess resources, and even if you're out of population, grabbing an upgrade is still really good. So that's the first concept that I want to talk about. It's the and the second thing is, if you don't know what civilization to play, you start with Uranus. Gaia and Kronos are also Atlantean, so they are also quite easy to play, and you can do the same thing with them. And for gods, I recommend going Prometheus, Theia, then Hecate for Uranus. And once you get to the heroic age, you're going to want to make Arcus and start using more like possibly destroyers or Contarius depending on the situation. And when you're in the mythic age, you can go for fire siphons, or you can go to research Titan Gate. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is upgrades. I notice a lot of new players, they tend to just forget about upgrades and they don't get them. Uh, Upgrades are really important. They make your units more efficient, so once you have a big number of them, which you often will have over the course of a game, you need to upgrade them so that they can do their work better. And usually the most important upgrades are the economic upgrades, because villagers are the unit that you're going to be constantly producing throughout the whole game. So hand axe for Uranus will allow you to gather wood 10% faster. So once you have a like maybe 3 or 4 citizens in wood, you want to get hand axe, and pickaxe will allow you to gather gold faster. So the same for pickaxe. And then they get more expensive. But then these upgrades still do the same as hand axe and pickaxe, but it does become worth it to pay more, even more, to get the same benefit as you get even more citizens gathering resources. And then even more expensive after that. And also farming upgrades. Don't forget your farming upgrades. Husbandry right at the start of the game, and then you go on to animals to hunt, and then hunting dogs right at the start of the game, not husbandry. Husbandry when you start running out of food on the map, so you have to eat your cows and goats and pigs. Um, and also the army upgrades. Once you have a bunch of murmillows, you want to get the medium infantry upgrade. Once you have a bunch of Arcus or Terma, you're going to want to get medium archers. Where's the medium archers? I don't see medium archers here, but you can get it at the counter barracks. Yeah, get the medium archers upgrade, which gives you 10% more hit points and 10% more attack. And then if you're making Contarius, you go for the Contarius upgrade. So you always want to get upgrades. And then if you have a big army of like a good number of units, then you also get the army upgrades. You get copper weapons, you get more attack. If you're against a player who has a lot of, say, chariot archers, then copper shields will help you negate the damage and make your units beefier. Like not just the infantry, but both the Terma and the Myrmidons will be 10%. Will have 10% more effective health against arrows. So you'll want to pick this up. Yeah, so that's it for the basics of Age of Mythology. Um, and there are, of course, much more complicated things and essentials to them beating better opponents than just the beginners. But then if you constantly make villagers, you play Atlantean, and then you don't forget your upgrades, then you will be 1800 on Extended Edition in no time. Thanks.